Hey Gus, tonight we find ourselves drifting softly through the damp, vine-laced alleyways of ancient Carthage where lanterns once flickered on merchant ships and whispers of Phoenician traders still linger in the salt-heavy air. You walk slowly, not because you are tired, but because the stones beneath your feet feel sacred. Each one carved by hands long gone, smoothed by centuries of sandal leather and desert wind. The scent of cinnamon and old papyrus drifts by, as if the market never quite closed, and somewhere behind a curtain of reeds, an old man coughs softly in his sleep. You glance up. The sky here is a bowl of thick indigo, powdered with stars, and the moon hangs low, like it's eavesdropping. Tonight is not a night of action. Tonight is a night of remembering the slow, sleepy kind of remembering that doesn't need full sentences. A bronze oil lamp flickers to your left, its flame steady despite the sea breeze, and beside it rests a clay amulet shaped like a fish. Someone once believed it could keep storms away. Perhaps it did. You move past quiet doorways, each one cracked, just slightly open, as if their owners meant to return, and never did. You pause at one, peer inside, and find a room frozen in the middle of a meal, bowls still full, jugs half-drained, a single sandal abandoned beside a stool. Not haunting, just paused. The kind of moment that never knew it was being watched. Further on, the alley curves toward a public bath, its mosaics cracked, but still colorful. You can just make out a faded dolphin chasing a fig. A cat slips past you. Its fur the color of ash and wine, and it does not look surprised to see you. Perhaps it's been expecting you. Cats are like that. The air grows warmer, not with heat, but with age thick, with stories folded into the walls. You run your fingers across a carved column, and feel a name etched there in childish script. Tenet, it says, followed by a shaky heart. She was someone's sister, someone's crush. Someone who once tripped while carrying water, and laughed too loud in the temple courtyard. You never met her, but you miss her. The silence here is not empty. It's just full of people who aren't in a hurry anymore. A lazy breeze tousles your hair and carries the smell of roast dates and wet plaster. You hear sandals shuffling around. The corner group of temple scribes, returning home after a late feast. Their voices a soft braid of jokes and yawns. One of them drops a scroll, and it unrolls slightly, revealing a sketch of a goat in a helmet. They don't notice, and you don't tell them. Let the goat stay. Let the moment breathe. You reach a quiet courtyard, where orange trees once bloomed. Their branches now bare. They still hold the memory of sweetness. A single petal lies on the ground, curled in on itself like a sleeping snail. You pick it up, then decide to leave it where it belongs. In this city, everything feels like it belongs. Even you. A fountain bubbles lazily in the corner, its lion mouth. Spout still dripping water that might be 1,000 years old. You cup some in your hand and taste it cool, slightly metallic, and deeply patient. Across from you, a statue of Balhaman watches with half-lidded eyes, as if he, too, is drifting off. You nod to him. He nods back. Or maybe it's just the flicker of your imagination, which has been walking slightly ahead of you all night, pointing at old doorways and saying, "Remember this." You don't, but it doesn't matter. You believe it anyway. The night is full of trustworthy lies. Above you, wind chimes, rattled gently shells, bones, bits of brass and their song is unhurried, like a lullaby played backward. You lie down, on a worn stone bench, and let the city hum around you. The stars blink slower now. Somewhere in the distance, a child mumbles in their sleep, dreaming of something to do with elephants and sunflowers. You smile, because that feels like a good dream. Flavius is there, of course, your loyal donkey, chewing absent-mindedly on something unwobble. He looks at you with those half-closed eyes, the kind that say "told you so" without context. You wonder aloud if Carthage ever had bedtime songs. He flicks an ear. You take that as a yes. Your mind wanders back, further still when this land was first settled. When ships with eyes painted on their hulls arrived from Tyre, bearing purple dye and improbable optimism. You imagine the first child born here, swaddled in linen and hope, and the first person to stub their toe on a cornerstone and curse in Phoenician. They are all here, somewhere. They are the sand. They are the salt. They are the soft sighs in the wind that sound like stories, but aren't in any language, you know. Somewhere nearby, the waves of the Mediterranean lap quietly at forgotten docks. You think you hear a flute, just one note, maybe two, then silence again. Perhaps it was a breeze squeezing past an old amphora. Perhaps it was memory again, nudging you gently with its elbow. You don't chase it. You just breathe. You feel sleep start to gather in your bones, like fog filling an empty street. Flavius makes a soft noise, something between a grunt and a lull. You murmur that you're not ready to wake, and he nods without turning. He knows this is not the kind of night that ends. It just folds into itself, like parchment tucked into a scroll case. Around you, the city begins to dream too. Statues lean into their pedestals. Stones nestle deeper into the soil. The stars tilt their faces toward the sea. And you, Gus, drift gently into the quiet center of it, all where even the past falls asleep. The night has deepened along the worn stone paths of Samarkand, where the last echoes of laughter have long since faded into the silk-lined hush of sleep. Along a sloping corridor that once bustled with travelers and tradesmen, only the faint creak of wooden eaves now interrupts the hush. Shadows settle like old blankets over faded murals of forgotten kings and mythical beasts. Their paint chipped, but their pride still lingering faintly in the air. You find yourself walking past the outer wall of an old madrasa. It's turquoise. Tiles cracked and smoky with the fingerprints of time. The calligraphy carved into the stone arches speaks not to visitors, but to the stars, whose cold light washes over the silent courtyards like moonmilk. You stop, run a finger over one of the etched verses, and feel a quiet hum beneath the stone, as if the madrasa is dreaming beneath your touch. A cat slips across the path ahead, pausing to glance back at you with that quiet, ancient suspicion all cats seem to carry. Its tail twitches, then disappears into the darkness. Somewhere behind a screen of carved wood, a string instrument is being slowly tuned, one string at a time, as though the player is remembering not just a melody, but a memory. You do not interrupt. You simply pass, your footsteps soft and patient. You arrive at an open-air library, long abandoned, its books swallowed by dust and breeze. Stone benches remain, weathered but dignified. In the center stands an enormous olive tree, grown up through the floor and bursting through the roof, like it had something important to say. Pages flutter from its branches, tied with thread, each a forgotten note, a recipe, a riddle. One reads, "To know the shape of wind, pour flour on a windowsill." Another, "He once built a boat that could only sail when no one watched." You smile. Not at the logic, at the absurdity that still somehow feels true. In a quiet alcove beside the tree lies a pile of sandals, all mismatched. The people who wore them, it seems, left barefoot on purpose. You sit down on the edge of the stone platform and listen. The city murmurs in a low, secretive tone, not words, but the sound of old bricks, remembering being carried on backs across mountains. The wind smells of cumin and cloves, and something sweet, maybe dried melon or date syrup, maybe just the ghost of it. There's a glint from the alley across the square. You rise to investigate, and find an old bronze scale resting against a bakery window, covered in rose petal flour and almond dust. The sign reads, "Weigh your silence here." There are no customers now, just rows of small, round breads cooling in the moonlight, their tops stamped with patterns, stars, birds, pomegranates. You take one and leave a smooth stone in return. The bread is still warm, though no oven smokes. You break it in half, and a little wisp of cinnamon escapes. Turning a corner, you find a shallow pool surrounded by mosaic columns, half filled with mint leaves floating atop still water. A heron stands knee-deep in it, unmoving, eyes closed. At first you think it's asleep. Then you realize it's listening. You crouch nearby, close enough to see your own reflection. And there, beneath the surface, are images drifting like clouds, a caravan crossing dunes, a woman lighting a clay lamp, a child releasing a painted kite. They drift and blur, but you catch the feeling of them. That's enough. You pass under a wooden gate, where a bell has been tied with silken thread. It doesn't ring when you pass beneath, but you still hear something, a sigh, a memory, perhaps just the wind pulling on something delicate. Inside the courtyard, is a table where someone has carefully arranged colored sands in glass bowls. Yellow, crimson, lapis, bone white. A single page lies beside them, the only writing. Map of places that don't exist. You stare, but of course, they do. Just not in waking hours. Beyond that, you find a row of long-abandoned shops, an apothecary with dried oranges still hanging from the ceiling. A perfumer's counter-coated in thick lavender dust, a papermaker's room where a fountain pen lies beside a blank scroll, as though someone meant to write a final note and forgot mid-thought. You dip the pen, it still works, but you don't write. Some silences deserve to be left whole. On the roof of a nearby building, someone has planted lanterns like flowers. They flicker in the breeze, glowing softly. As you climb the winding stairs toward them, your fingers graze the brick wall, and you feel names carved into the mortar. Sadia, Rayhan, Mother of Wind. The one who lost his voice, but not his songs. The last one makes you pause. You repeat it, quietly, just to see how it feels in your mouth. When you reach the rooftop, the city is spread out like a story, waiting to be unfolded. Stars lean a little closer here. You lie down on a woven mat someone has left behind, and let the night seep into your spine. You can feel it now, how history isn't in the books, or even in the ruins. It's in the warmth left behind in stones, in laughter soaked into walls, in doorways shaped by the passing of shoulders long since vanished. A glass of something warm appears beside you. You don't question where it came from. You sip. It tastes like dates and dust, and quiet forgiveness. Not the kind you asked for. The kind you give yourself when you've forgotten who you were trying so hard to be. A soft voice hums a lullaby from somewhere. No lyrics, just the sound of someone remembering how to soothe. It winds around your ribs like a slow ribbon and invites your breath to slow down, to match the pace of shadows stretching, of petals falling, of bread rising in a still oven. Below, a fig tree shudders in the breeze, a bird turns once in its sleep, and somewhere, deep within the belly of the market, a merchant dreams of a customer who never came, but whose name he still remembers. He repeats it in his sleep, like a promise to the dust. The rooftops blur into the sky. The city shifts slightly, not physically, but emotionally like it too, is falling asleep. You close your eyes. The sounds remain, distant bells, quiet, footsteps that may be your own, a fountain that trickles without water. The last thing you hear before drifting into the dark velvet of sleep is the slow, rhythmic chant of a weaver counting threads on an invisible loom. One for memory, one for loss, one for dreams too soft to keep, one for you. And then only breathing asterisk. Beneath the waning stars and the faded whisper of the call to prayer. The ancient harbor of Alexandria dozes beside the Mediterranean, like an old philosopher sunk deep into thought. There is a hush to the early blue light, not quite dawn, not quite night, as if the sky itself can't decide whether to remember or to forget. The sea is smooth as glass, holding the shimmer of lighthouse reflections like secrets. In the sleepy streets nearby, shutters are half closed, and the stones underfoot are still warm from the previous day. You wander quietly through a narrow lane where the walls are soft with ivy, and on one faded doorway, someone has chalked a message. Please knock only if you've forgotten your own story. No one answers when you do. Just the faint smell of salt and ink. You drift past the remnants of a library no longer filled with scrolls, but with silence. Shelves that once bent under the weight of every known idea now simply hold shadows and dust. But the stories are not gone. They linger in the corners, behind cobwebs, inside the dents of old benches. You run your fingers along a stone table and feel something like memory, an echo of fingers flipping parchment. A scholar's sigh after midnight, the distant scratch of a quill. A stray breeze carries the ghost of a jasmine sent through the shattered window. Somewhere outside, a slow creak, perhaps a boat shifting its weight against the dock, or the world adjusting its shoulder, under the weight of time. You pause. The moment holds its breath with you. Along the coast, an old fisherman hums a tune that has no words, just the rhythm of waves and waiting. He casts a net that's more mended whole than thread, yet the gesture is steady, reverent. Nearby, resting against a wall, a basket filled not with fish but with letters written on linen scraps. Some are prayers, some recipes. One simply says, "I remember you." You take one and tuck it into your sleeve without reading further. Some knowledge is meant to unfold slowly. Past the harbor wall, you find a small building. No sign, no lock. Its door opens with a sigh. Inside, shelves of colored glass bottles glimmer faintly in the candlelight. One holds quiet from the bottom of a well. Another a laugh that only ever happened once. A bottle shaped like a teardrop is labeled, "What Helen really said when the ships left." You don't open any. Just reading them feels enough. A cat winds around your ankles. Not the same one as before, but with the same ageless look. It leads you back into the open street, tail high, as if guiding you to some long-promised truth. You follow it to a ruined amphitheater, where moss creeps between the stones and daisies push their heads up through forgotten applause. A single man sits on the stage in faded robes, carving something into the earth with a stick. As you near, you see it's not words, it's a map, but not of places. Of feelings. There's a river labeled wonder, a mountain of disappointment, a valley of stillness. You offer him a piece of bread. He accepts, smiles, and vanishes. Not in a puff of smoke, just like someone who never meant to stay long. Now, you're walking deeper into the city's backstreets, where scent becomes history. Cardamom, burnt sugar, copper, sweat, lemon oil. You pass an old bathhouse, its tiles cracked, but the scent of rosewater lingers in the steam curling from its windows. A woman inside hums softly while pouring water from one brass bowl to another. She nods at you, offers no words, only the comfort of rhythm. Pour, pause, pour again. You watch for a while. The repetition is hypnotic, like remembering how to breathe. Then you slip away again, like a respectful ghost. A stairway leads you upward, though it's unclear where it ends. The steps are carved unevenly, as if made by many hands over many centuries, each footfall shaping history, 1 inch at a time. When you reach the top, there's a courtyard with a tree growing sideways out of a ruined wall. Its bark is covered in tiny etched symbols. One looks like a door, another like a feather. Several are just dots and patterns. A plaque lies half buried in the dirt. Not every language needs to be spoken to be understood. You rest your palm on the bark and feel an odd warmth, as if the tree remembers every hand that's touched it. The rooftop is silent, except for the occasional flap of bird wings. You find an old man painting by the chimney light, but he's not painting with colors, he's brushing with air. He dips his brush into nothing, waves it gently, and smiles as though seeing something only he can. You watch, unsure what he's doing, but something in your chest relaxes, just watching him. You sit down beside him. He hands you a second brush. You don't know what you're painting, but your wrist moves anyway. Maybe peace is just this, doing something slowly, with care. For no reason other than it feels like breathing. Below, the city stirs, not in noise, but in emotion. The feeling of a collective dream being folded gently into morning. You look out and see the shapes of laundry lines, rooftop gardens, pigeon coops, empty teacups, letters left unsent. Alexandria has not disappeared, it has simply learned to whisper. You lie back, tuck your hands behind your head, and stare into the graying stars. Somewhere nearby, a pot of honeyed milk begins to boil. Somewhere else, a child wakes and promptly falls asleep again. Their breath steady and even, and you, a traveler through time and story, begin to drift. You're no longer walking, you're floating. Thoughts slow, details blur. The stone cools beneath your spine, and the sky stretches above you like a soft quilt. You hear footsteps that might be memories, a door creaking open from years ago, a voice saying your name the way only someone who missed you could. It all blends, becomes weightless. You exhale once, deeply, and just before the dreams come, you feel one last whisper from the sea below. Even waves sleep sometimes. Then all is still, all is soft. All is gone, asterisk. In the heart of ancient Kyoto, where moss climbs the walls like memories trying to return home, the night unfolds as gently as parchment. Lanterns hang from the eaves of wooden houses, swaying just enough to make their shadows dance across the rice paper walls. Somewhere far off, a shakuhachi flute sighs, its long breathy notes, and the city listens, not with ears, but with centuries. You walk along a narrow path lined with smooth stones, each one worn down by the shuffle of thousands of sandals, clogs, bare feet. The stones do not speak, but if they did, they would tell you stories of lovers who passed without holding hands, of monks who walked in circles until they forgot their names, of a courier who once delivered a letter 300 years too late. At the end of the lane is a gate, crooked but proud, with a faded plaque that reads, "Here is the Temple of Almas." Inside, everything is unfinished. A bridge that stops halfway across a koi pond, a bell tower with no bell, a garden whose pebbles have not yet been raked. But nothing feels broken, only paused. The pond is still dotted with lily pads like punctuation marks in a poem never written. A lone frog sits on the edge, unmoving. You watch it for so long that you forget time entirely. That is, after all, the point. Further into the temple grounds lies a wooden bench beneath a flowering plum tree. The petals fall slowly, not from wind, but from memory. One lands on your shoulder, and you resist the urge to brush it away. It stays. You stay. Around the corner, you come upon a room without doors, only fabric curtains stitched from the robes of retired monks. The fabric is soft and smells faintly of incense and ink. You pass through and find a small table with an abacus, a bowl of tea, and a note that says, "Please count your regrets and leave them here." You don't count, you just sit, and somehow, sitting is enough. A nearby wind chime sings a tune you feel in your ribs. It's irregular, a bit off-key, but it matches the rhythm of your breathing. A cat, white with one orange paw, climbs onto your lap. You don't pet it, it doesn't purr. But its weight reminds you of something you didn't know you'd forgotten, that stillness is not the same as emptiness, as the moon climbs higher. You wander into a small tea house, lit by nothing but fireflies in glass bowls. A woman behind the counter grinds matcha in a slow circle, her sleeves whispering as they move. She doesn't ask your order, she simply places a cup in front of you. The tea is warm, slightly bitter, and tastes like the color green on a rainy morning. You drink it slowly, and with each sip, you feel lighter, as if the weight you've been carrying has been quietly redistributed to the air around you. Behind the tea house is a bamboo grove. The stalks creak faintly, like an old man adjusting. His back a stone path winds through the grove, and tied to some of the bamboo are tiny pieces of parchment wishes. Some are written boldly, others in fading ink. One reads, "I want to find a blue feather." Another, "I miss the sound of my mother's cooking." And one simply says, "Let it be enough. You don't add your own. Not tonight." Tonight, it's enough to read the wishes of strangers and realize they are not so different from your own. You emerge from the bamboo grove and find yourself beside a narrow canal, where old boats are tethered to posts wrapped in silk. None of them are moving, but the water shimmers like a painting that forgot to dry. You sit on the edge, dip your fingers in, and the ripples stretch out gently toward the moon. A heron glides overhead, not a sound, just the soft whoosh of wings. Beside the canal, an old woman sits weaving on a loom so small it could fit in your pocket. She weaves with threads of light, shadow, hair, string, and maybe memory. When she sees you watching, she smiles, stops, and says only, "We're always weaving, whether we mean to or not." Then she goes back to her work. Her hands move slowly. You watch. You breathe. Time dissolves. Somewhere a distant gong sounds, not to mark the hour, but to remind the night it's still here. Crickets chirp. Leaves shift. A drawer opens in. A house you'll never enter. The world is not asleep, but it is close, like a child, pretending just to see if you'll notice. You stretch out on a wooden bench beneath a paper lantern. The words on the lantern read, "This too will glow." And it does, faintly, softly, just enough to see the stars begin to slip behind the clouds. And as your eyes begin to close, not from exhaustion but from calm, you hear the faint rustle of someone turning a page in a book written only in dreams. You do not know the title. You do not need to. What matters is that it is still being read. That somewhere a story is continuing, even now, even here. Even in sleep, *. In a forgotten corner of the Roman Empire, Tucked between the sleepy hills of what is now southern France, lies a village so small and still that even the wind walks softly. The locals say the place was once called Sidera, meaning stars, because the sky above it seemed closer than anywhere else on earth. At night, the village glows gently in memory, not with lanterns, but with stories that hang in the air, like dust motes, catching moonlight. You arrive as twilight is curling over the cobblestones. The road is lined with olive trees, their twisted trunks looking like dancers frozen mid-pirouette. The smell of thyme and roasted chestnuts drifts from somewhere unseen. A rooster crows sleepily, confused by the hour. You step carefully, not out of fear, but reverence, as if disturbing the hush might make the moment vanish. The center of the village is a circular plaza with a dried-up fountain shaped like a lion that's forgotten how to roar. At its base, etched faintly in Latin, are the words, Quieta non mover, disturb not the quiet things. You sit beside it and close your eyes. In the stillness, the past doesn't feel far. It feels folded like a piece of parchment, kept warm under someone's robe. Across the plaza is a bakery with a crooked chimney and shutters that flap like sleepy eyelids. Inside, an old man with flour-dusted hands kneads dough, so slowly you wonder if he's thinking through his fingertips. He hums a tune no one remembers the name of. You don't enter. Just the scent of yeast, cinnamon, and wood smoke is enough to feel full. Down a narrow alley, ivy curls around stone like embroidery. You follow the path and stumble upon a tailor's shop where dresses hang in the windows, their colors faded like old memories. One robe is stitched with constellations, another with tiny embroidered olives, as if someone wanted to wear the entire harvest. Inside, a dressmaker naps on a stool, head bowed over a half-finished cloak. A cat sleeps on a pile of golden thread. The only sound is the ticking of a clock that doesn't keep time. It keeps rhythm. Just beyond the tailor's is a small apothecary, with shelves of corked bottles and dried herbs hanging from the beams. A sign on the door reads, Potions for forgetting. Elixirs for remembering. Please knock softly. You do, and a woman with silver-streaked hair and a scarf like the sunset invites you in. She doesn't ask what you need. Instead, she places a small vial in your hand and says, This one's for when you almost remember something important. You don't drink it. You just hold it and nod. The village bell tower has long since stopped ringing, but its shadow still falls exactly where it used to, across a row of benches, where elders used to sit and argue gently about figs and philosophy. One of those benches is still warm. You sit and look out over the vineyard that tumbles down the hillside in sleepy rows. A breeze moves through the grape leaves like a lullaby written in green dot. Near the vineyard, you find a crumbling amphitheater, overgrown with moss and lavender. A single stool sits in the center of the stage, and beside it, an empty wine goblet. A forgotten actor's mask lies in the dirt, its smile cracked but sincere. You sit in the audience, though there is no show. Or maybe this is the show, the silence, the scents, the way the sun spills like gold coins over the stone seats. You applaud once, softly. The moment bows in return. Later, you come across an old Roman bathhouse with no roof, just columns holding up the sky. The pools are dry, but the echo remains. You swear you hear laughter, not recent but preserved in steam, like a message in condensation. A single sandal rests on the edge of the cold marble floor. Not lost, just waiting. The path out of the village leads you up a small hill lined with statues, not of emperors or warriors, but of ordinary villagers. A woman carrying water, a boy chasing a bird, a man scratching his back with a stick. Each one life-sized, each one oddly calming. The final statue is of a traveler, faceless, one hand outstretched, as if waiting to shake yours. You do, and though it's stone, the gesture feels warm. At the hilltop, you find a single cypress tree with a swing hanging from one low branch. The seat creaks when you sit on it, but the sound is more like a sigh than a groan. From this height, you can see the whole village below, its rooftops rust-red and moss-green. The slow puff of someone's chimney, the occasional flutter of a curtain. It doesn't feel like looking down. It feels like looking back. You close your eyes and sway gently. The swing doesn't rise far. Just enough. just enough to make you feel the softness of the air, the memory of childhood, the wonder of being between. Moments you are not asleep, not quite. But your thoughts have curled up somewhere in your chest, like a cat in a sunbeam, as the stars prick the sky one by one. A woman in a violet robe climbs the hill carrying a lantern filled not with fire, but with tiny floating feathers that glow faintly. She says nothing, but offers you a second lantern. Yours holds glimmers that feel familiar, the light of candles once lit for someone, the flicker of birthday wishes, the shine in a friend's eye the last time they saw you. You carry the lantern back down the hill together, your footsteps matching, not quite making sound. At the edge of the village is a small stone bridge over a dry stream bed. A plaque reads, "Once this stream ran with time, now it rests." You pause there, watching nothing happen. It's oddly soothing. Behind you, the village breathes a slow, deep rhythm. You don't turn around, you don't need to. The memory of it is stitched inside you now, thread by thread, like a story that's still being written. And as the night deepens, and the last candle flickers out in a window somewhere, you realize nothing truly disappears. Not really. Villages may fade, but their hush remains. People may go, but their warmth lingers in benches and teacups and half-told jokes. The world doesn't forget, it just rests. Like you, now. As your eyelids grow heavy and your breath evens, the stars blink gently overhead, like old friends keeping watch. You are not lost. You are here, in the quiet, in the story. And soon, in sleep. In the sun-dappled archipelagos of ancient Indonesia, where volcanoes smolder like sleeping dragons, and the air smells faintly of clove and sea salt. A kingdom once thrived, that now exists mostly in whisper and wind. It was called Srivijaya, a name that rolls off the tongue like a wave, mighty, elusive, and oddly comforting. Tonight, we visit that lost world, but not in a hurry. No, we'll drift there. Like a leaf carried gently down a jungle river, unbothered by where it ends up. Your journey begins on a narrow path shaded by banyan trees, whose roots droop like forgotten thoughts. Birds call softly overhead, their songs slow and circular. Each step brings you deeper into the thicket of a time that didn't rush. You pass ancient stone stupas, covered in moss, where butterflies dance in quiet devotion. No guards, no tickets, just presence. Eventually, the jungle thins, and there it is, the harbor city of Palembang, in its prime. Boats bob gently in the bay, their sails bright with dye made from crushed beetles and blossoms. The port hums, not with chaos, but with low rhythmic chatter. Sailors unload ivory, nutmeg, sandalwood, and scrolls inked in languages that barely exist anymore. The air tastes of tamarind and toasted rice. You walk slowly through the market, where the stalls are canopied in silk and shaded with banana leaves. A woman sells pearls that catch the light like moon crumbs. A boy offers slices of mango on palm bark. A potter hums as he spins clay into cups so fine they wobble with the wind. No one sells loudly. No one haggles harshly. Everything here feels wrapped in steam and story. Deeper in the city, you find a library, not grand, but full. Bamboo shelves stretch wall to wall, each scroll rolled tightly, sealed with a knot of red thread. The librarian is asleep. A white cat sits on the counter beside her, one eye open. You do not wake her. Instead, you sit on a reed mat and choose a scroll at random. The title reads, "How to Listen to Rain." You unroll it slowly, but there are no words, only gentle ink strokes, dots and lines that feel like rainfall on skin. You understand anyway, outside. Monks chant in a pavilion that smells of coconut oil and incense. Their voices rise and fall like waves against a hollow log. You sit nearby, not close enough to hear the words, just the tone. It calms something deep inside you. A memory, maybe, or an ache you didn't realize had been humming all day. In the palace gardens, palm fronds sway like metronomes over pools of water filled with pink lotus flowers and lazy turtles. Peacocks stroll as if late for nothing. The empress walks barefoot along a mosaic path, each step deliberate. Her robes shimmer with embroidery of mountains, birds, and stars. You don't speak. She nods once. It's enough. By nightfall, the torches are lit, not out of necessity, but as ritual. Fireflies gather anyway, casting their own softer glow. At the edge of the city is a temple carved into a limestone hill. No steps, just a slow upward slope that invites rather than commands. You ascend gently. Inside, cool air wraps around you like a shawl. Candles flicker in alcoves where statues smile with chipped teeth and closed eyes. One statue, older than empires, holds a bowl with nothing in it. And yet, looking into it, you feel full. Behind the temple lies a bamboo bridge, strung across a wide river. The current is slow tonight, thick with lily pads and stories. As you cross, you pass musicians sitting by the rails, playing soft gamelan music, with fingers and mallets made of bone and bronze. The melody is mathematical and dreamlike, precise, yet adrift. It feels like a lullaby, written for the moon. You reach the far bank and find a circle of children listening to an elder tell a story. Her voice is low and syrupy, her hands fluttering like moths as she speaks. She's telling the legend of a sea serpent who mistook the stars for eggs and swallowed the sky. The children gasp in all the right places, though they've heard it 100 times. You sit quietly behind them, comforted by the repetition. Later, you wander into a spice grove where nutmeg, cardamom, and clove trees grow in patient rows. A single hammock hangs between 2 trees. You lie down and watch as fireflies blink overhead like lazy constellations. Somewhere nearby, a mortar and pestle crush dried ginger with a rhythm so steady it becomes a heartbeat. From the hammock, you can see the glow of the city reflected in the water, not like a mirror, but like memory. Rippled, gentle, softened by distance. A passing monk places a folded scrap of cloth in your hand. You unfold it. It reads, "Nothing needs to be done. Everything already is." You smile, not at the message, at the quietness it brings. Eventually the breeze shifts, and you find yourself back at the harbor. The boats are quieter now, sails furled, ropes slack with sleep. A man dozes on a crate, a parrot on his shoulder, dreaming of mango pits. The moon reflects in puddles left by the tide, each one a small, glowing version of the sky. A fisherman with a net of holes offers you a ride across the bay. You don't ask where. You just step in. The boat rocks gently, cradling you in creaks and soft splashes. You feel the cool air wrap around your arms like a well-worn blanket. And in the distance, the skyline of ancient Sravijaya slips into shadow, not vanishing, just resting. As the boat drifts, the fisherman begins to hum a tune, with no lyrics, no name. You close your eyes, not because you're tired, but because the moment asks you to. The boat drifts farther, and the rhythm of the oars becomes the rhythm of your breath. And before long, even that sound dissolves. All that's left is the hush of a world still holding you gently, a history still unfolding quietly, and a night still watching over you, calm, constant, and kind. You are floating, now, in memory, in time, in sleep, far beyond the maps of kings and conquerors, nestled quietly along the wind-brushed shores of pre-Columbian North America. Lived a city many today have never heard of Cahokia. Long before concrete skyscrapers pierced the sky, before Manhattan bustle or Los Angeles lights, Cahokia rose with quiet dignity near the banks of the Mississippi River. Tonight, we wander its pathways, not as archaeologists or scholars, but as sleepy travelers seeking peace in the dust of forgotten footsteps. The journey begins under a velvet twilight sky, with cicadas humming in slow rhythms, and tall grasses swaying like dancers too tired to finish their routines. You walk a well-worn trail once padded by thousands of bare feet. Soft, purposeful, communal. The air smells of earth after rain, and firewood smoke curls gently from distant hearths. Mixing with the scent of crushed berries, the city comes into view gradually. No stone walls, no towers, just the soft rise of earthen mounds, over 100 of them, shaped by human hands and generations of intent. The largest, Monk's Mound, sits at the center like a sleeping beast, its broad back blanketed in green. You approach it slowly, your footsteps muffled by moss and time. A quiet procession is climbing the mound with woven baskets, torches, and jars of river water. You follow, respectfully. At the top, a wooden structure rests, part temple, part observatory. Priests in feathered robes, Tend a fire that does not crackle, only glows. One of them nods to you and gestures toward a reed mat. You sit. The stars above begin to shimmer. Not impatiently, but in welcome. From here, Cahokia spreads out like a gentle quilt. Neighborhoods of Watalandab homes. Garden plots dotted with sunflowers and squash. Circular plazas where children still chase each other in your mind. No stone, no marble. Only wood, clay, and care. This was a city of rhythm. Planting cycles, harvest feasts, lunar alignments. Nothing rushed. Everything remembered. As night deepens, you wander down from the mound into the heart of the city. A group of women grind corn near a fire, their hands moving with ancient repetition. They murmur stories between themselves, tales of sky serpents, corn spirits, and ancestors who speak through dreams. You can't hear the words clearly, but the cadence comforts, like listening to waves from the safety of shore. You pass the woodhenge, a massive circle of tall timber posts, used to track solstices and equinoxes. A young boy points to the sky where Orion rises slowly above the trees. His grandfather adjusts his hand, showing him where the first sun of spring will appear between two posts. You pause beside them. No one minds. Time here isn't measured in minutes, but in seasons, shadows, and starlight. Beside a quiet stream, a woman weaves baskets from river cane. Her fingers move with hypnotic grace, each strand tucked like a line of poetry. When she finishes, she sets it beside a dozen others, all slightly different, all equally beautiful. She doesn't notice you, but a small dog sleeping near her opens one eye and wags its tail once before returning to its dream. Nearby, a drummer sits cross-legged, tapping a slow heartbeat on stretched hide. His eyes are closed. He's not performing. He's remembering. You sit across from him and close your eyes too. The rhythm slips into your bones. You think, this is how stories were told before words. You feel it, not in your mind, but your ribs. Cahokia at night is not quiet, because it's empty. It's quiet, because it's content. The people do not shout. They do not hurry. Everything moves with the softness of dusk. Meals shared beneath thatched roofs. Songs hummed while fixing arrowheads. Laughter bubbling gently from fire circles, where riddles are told slowly and solved even slower. You find an elder seated on a flat rock beside a tall cedar. She invites you to sit with a glance. Then she begins telling you a story, but in gesture, not speech. Her hands draw birds, rivers, suns, and serpents. You do not understand all of it, but you follow anyway. Her wrinkles shift with each movement, as though her entire face is a landscape that remembers more than you ever could. Later, you find a place to rest, a woven mat inside a roundhouse with a low roof and fire pit glowing softly in the center. A breeze sneaks in through the reeds, rustling the sleeping breaths of others nearby. You lie down. Someone's flute, far away, plays a tune with only 4 notes. They repeat, each softer than the last. Your eyelids grow heavy, but before sleep takes you, your mind drifts. To the gardens you saw earlier, the amaranth leaves curling in the moonlight. To the river, slow and dark, cradling driftwood in dreams. To the voices that murmured all around you, voices not forgotten, just resting under centuries of dust and grass. Cahokia was not a myth, not a mystery. It was a memory made from patience. A city of 20,000 hearts, beating in rhythm with soil, sky, and each other. And as you drift into your own quiet rhythm, you become part of that too, a gentle pulse in the long, slow song of the earth. You're not walking now. You're floating on starlight, on memory, on the steady breath of people who once lived gently and left quietly. The fire in the roundhouse fades to an ember. The drummer's hands slow to a whisper. The wind wraps around you like a lullaby. Too old to name. You are safe. You are warm. You are in Cahokia. And now, you sleep. Far across the deserts and dunes of time, beyond the busy history of kings and empires, lies a winding path of spice and silence. The Silk Roads, but not the war-scarred caravan trails of textbooks, nor the gleaming palaces of emperors. No. Tonight we drift along the quieter lanes, the kitchens, the tents, the tea stops, where the real stories simmered like slow stew. The night opens on a starlit plateau in Central Asia, under a sky so vast it seems to bend time itself. You're seated on a low cushion inside a round felt yurt. The fabric walls whisper as wind passes over them like an old melody. Someone pours tea into a chipped porcelain cup. The steam curls upward like a small ghost and vanishes. Outside, camels shift their weight slowly, their bells chiming like half-remembered songs. They've carried not gold or silk today, but bundles of dried apricots, bolts of blue cotton, and curious items from far-off lands. A carved walnut from Bactria, a mirror from Kashgar, a string of tiny glass fish from Syria. Each a treasure, each utterly mundane. Your host speaks little, but his hands tell stories. He motions to the low table. Bread baked on hot stones. Lamb stewed with cumin and onion. Fermented mare's milk with a taste that's oddly comforting. You eat slowly, the kind of slow where each bite brings a memory you didn't know you had, of warmth, of safety, of time without rush. Later you step outside. The moonlight glows over the sand, turning every grain into silver. Traders sit around a low fire, sharing stories in many tongues. You catch fragments, a tale of a monkey that stole a merchant's ledger, a curse upon a shipment of saffron, a dream about a garden made entirely of salt. Each tale floats gently through the night, finding no end, only rest. Further down the path, you arrive at a Persian caravanserai, an ancient roadside inn, where travelers of every sort settle for the evening. Inside its stone courtyard, donkeys drink from a carved basin. A scholar from Samarkand quietly copies a verse from a crumbling manuscript. A woman from Chang'an sews a patch onto her child's sleeve. No one rushes. Everyone, for tonight, is still. In a far corner, a blind musician plucks at a tar. The notes slow and meandering, like footsteps through sand. You sit near him. He hums softly between notes, not a song, just sound. It comforts in a way only forgotten things can. You close your eyes and feel the floor beneath you, not just stone, but centuries. You are sitting atop the weight of 1,000 soft footsteps, 1,000,000 whispered bargains, and laughter that once echoed down this same corridor. You wander next into the spice stalls, closed now, but fragrant. Cardamom, star anise, cloves, and pepper sleep in sacks like ancient dreams. You run your fingers through a basket of dried rose petals. A label reads, for scent, for tea, for remembering. You do all three. Farther along you find a letter nailed to a wall, yellowed and flapping in the breeze. It's written in a mixture of Greek and Sanskrit, addressed to no one, signed by someone named Daria. It reads simply, still here, still traveling, still waiting for figs to ripen. You smile. You don't know Daria, but somehow, you do. The Silk Roads were not just roads. They were lullabies, stretched across mountains. Each stop was a verse, each market a chorus, each shared cup of tea pause in the rhythm. Even now, you feel that rhythm, not as music, but as breath. As you continue walking, you meet a man selling paper lanterns. He offers you one. You light it. It rises slowly, like a secret you're ready to release. Dozens of others follow. The sky becomes a slow-moving constellation of wishes and sleepy hopes. One lantern dips toward the earth, but lifts again, carried by a wind that knows the way. You follow a trail of glowing embers to a quiet river, where an old woman washes silks in the moonlight. Her hands move gently, rinsing fabric dyed with indigo and pomegranate. She doesn't speak, but her hum is a lullaby, one without words, yet thick with memory. You sit beside her and listen. Eventually, the humming becomes your own, as the night stretches. The road winds into a valley, where fig trees grow heavy and slow. A soft rain begins, not enough to soak, just enough to soften the air. A goat bleats in the distance. Somewhere, a flute sighs once, then stops. You lie down under a canopy of woven reeds. Someone places a folded blanket over you, camel wool, scratchy but warm. You look up and see the stars blinking in patterns that once guided caravans. Now, they simply guide dreams. And in that moment, you realize, the Silk Roads were never about arrival. They were about drifting, wandering, waiting for figs to ripen, waiting for dreams to cross deserts, waiting for sleep to arrive, not as a gate, but a gradual unfolding. You let go, not suddenly, but softly, like a sack of dates, tipped slowly, spilling sweetness into sand. You are no longer walking. You are floating across mountains, across centuries, across the spice-scented quiet of history. Tonight, the Silk Roads carry you home, not to a place, but a feeling. The kind you carry in your chest, long after the story ends. And now, the story ends, and you sleep. On a quiet hillside in ancient Greece, where olive trees lean lazily into the breeze and cicadas sing their endless songs. A story waits not of wars or heroes, but of a god who preferred naps to glory. Tonight, we turn the page, not to thunderbolts or battles, but to sandals, snacks, and a surprisingly sleepy messenger of the gods, Hermes. Yes, that Hermes winged sandals, and all, but not as you know him. This is not a tale of haste, but of hesitation. Not a saga of speed, but of slowness. Welcome to the bedtime side of Olympus. Our journey begins just before dawn. The sky is still half asleep, draped in layers of purples and silvers. Hermes, god of travelers and tricksters, lies on his stomach atop a patch of soft moss outside a shepherd's hut. He isn't rushing to deliver a divine message. He isn't ferrying souls or stealing cattle. He's snacking on figs and staring at ants. Occasionally he hums. You might expect more from a god with wings on his feet. But Hermes has learned sometimes the best way to outwit the world is to simply wait until it's too tired to bother you. He stretches, yawns, and listens. The mountain goats bleat sleepily in the distance. A pot of lentils simmers somewhere nearby, and from within his tunic, a small tortoise peeks its head out. Yes, the tortoise, the same one that would one day become the shell of his very first lyre, but today, it's just company. Hermes begins walking very slowly, sandals whispering against the dew-wet grass. Not because he has somewhere to be, but because a snail is crossing the path and he'd rather not disturb it. Along the way, he greets a napping satyr, tips his cap to a trio of dozing nymphs, and pauses to rearrange a pile of pebbles that might be an altar, or a child's game. Hard to say. He reaches a low hill, not too steep, not too flat, the perfect napping hill. He lies back, arms behind his head, and watches the clouds. One looks like a lyre, one looks like a sandal, one looks like ... a perfectly ordinary cloud. He names that one Gregor, for no reason at all. In the distance, on Mount Olympus, the other gods are bickering, probably about something important, like lightning bolt schedules, or who borrowed Athena's oil lamp. Hermes hears none of it. A bee buzzes near his ear. He doesn't swat it away. He just hums a tune, low and off-key, and the bee joins in briefly, before drifting away. Bored. Now you might wonder, why isn't Hermes doing something more divine? The answer, dear listener, is simple. He's already done quite a lot. He invented the lyre from a tortoise shell. He stole Apollo's cattle as a baby. He guided souls, brokered deals, played tricks, delivered dreams. But sometimes even, for gods, the best trick is to disappear for a while, as the sun climbs. Hermes finds a shade tree and pulls out a small scroll. Not a divine edict, just a list of snacks he's been meaning to try. Pine nut paste, honey cakes, fermented barley milk. He checks one off with satisfaction. He hasn't eaten it yet, but he thought about it. Close enough, a turtle ambles by. Hermes walks beside it for an hour, matching its pace. Occasionally, they stop to look at oddly shaped rocks. One looks like a goose. One might be a goose. They don't touch it. Eventually, he wanders into a mortal village, unnoticed. He trades a story for a peach, then trades the peach pit for a carved spoon, then gives the spoon to a boy with no spoon. The boy says nothing, just smiles. Hermes disappears before thanks can find him. He doesn't need it. Afternoon fades too. Golden dusk. Hermes finds a quiet stream and soaks his feet. A trout swims up, nibbles a toe, then swims off, unimpressed. He laughs softly. Not a full laugh. Just a breathy huh. Like a joke only the wind understands. A crow lands nearby and tilts its head. Hermes offers it a grape. The crow declines. Hermes eats the grape. Both feel satisfied, as twilight deepens. He climbs a small hill and builds a cairn, just 3 stones high. He hums a traveling song, one only messengers know. It has no beginning, no middle, no end, just a loop. A lullaby for wanderers. The stars blink into view, he points out. Constellations, one shaped like a shoe, one like a loaf of bread, one that's clearly just stars, but tonight, they're whatever he says they are. Finally, Hermes lies down on a bed of soft leaves. He folds his cap under his head. The tortoise nestles beside him. The ants have gone to bed. Even the wind seems to tiptoe now, and just before sleep takes him, he whispers something, not in Greek, not in Godspeak, just a soft, content sound. The kind of sound that means, I did enough today. Even if all I did was notice a cloud named Gregor. So if ever you find yourself rushing, running, chasing a dream or a deadline, remember Hermes, god of travelers and naps, who once spent an entire day doing very little, and found it more than enough. Because even the gods need days of stillness, and so do you. Now close your eyes, drift gently, like a tortoise through clover, and sleep. The lanterns are lit in Edo. That's Tokyo, long before it became the bright electric forest it is today. But tonight, we will not wander the samurai streets, or climb castle walls. No battles, no blades. Tonight, we slip quietly through paper, doors and into the secret, sleepy world of Edo's night watchers, the quiet souls who wandered the city while others slept. The story opens. In the 1700s, the air smells faintly of cedar smoke and soy broth. Narrow wooden streets stretch in crooked rows, silent except for the occasional clack of Gita sandals. The city sleeps, or at least, most of it does. Under the flickering light of a bamboo torch, a man walks slowly. He wears a conical straw hat, wide and soft like a bellflower, and carries a long wooden staff that he taps gently against the cobblestones, not to warn intruders, but to let sleepers know he's there. He's not a guard in the modern sense. He's a yomawari, a night walker, part watchman, part lullaby. His job is simple and quiet, to stroll through the night, keeping an eye out for open flames, drunken wanderers, or wayward cats. But more than that, he brings peace. His footsteps are steady, measured like the ticking of a clock made from sandals. Tap, tap, pause, tap, tap. Breathe. Down one alley, a paper lantern sways in the breeze outside a soba shop. It's closed, but still warm. The smell of noodles lingers. He stops, listens. All is well. He moves on. In another quarter, he sees a woman returning from the public bathhouse, hair still damp, wooden pail in hand. They nod politely, no words needed. This is the language of the night, slow, simple, respectful. Elsewhere, behind rice paper walls, a child stirs in sleep. The yomawari pauses beneath the window and clears his throat softly. Then, in a voice so gentle it barely stirs the wind, he sings. Sleep now, little firefly. The rain is far, the stars are high. It's not a song anyone taught him. Just one passed down from walker to walker. A tune meant to hush cities. The child sighs, sleeps again. Now the streets turn darker, not from danger, but from shadow. The moon has ducked behind a cloud. A cat watches from a roof's edge, tail flicking. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then thinks better of it. The yomawari stops, and takes a sip of tea from a clay flask. It's cold now, but comforting. He adjusts his coat, rough cotton, patched at the elbows, and moves on. His route never changes, but it always feels new. That's the secret of walking at night. Everything looks like a memory you haven't had yet. A bell chimes in the distance. The temple bell at the hour of the ox. That's roughly 2 a.m. It's when the city is most still, most held in the arms of sleep. In a tiny workshop, a lantern maker is still awake, fitting bamboo ribs into place. The yomawari pauses at the door. They nod to each other. No need to talk. The lantern maker passes him a sweet bean bun, still warm. He bows, tucks it into his sleeve for later. This is not payment. This is ritual. Outside the pleasure district, laughter echoes softly, Tired laughter, almost like yawning with sound. The night walker doesn't enter. That's not his place. But he pauses near a cherry tree and lights a small incense stick. He plants it in a crack between stones and lets it burn. A small, fragrant prayer for peace. Rain begins to fall, not loud, but misty. The kind of rain that feels like someone whispering over your shoulder. He pulls his straw hat lower and listens to the city breathe. The wooden gutters gurgle. Raindrops ping off roof tiles. A frog croaks once, content. On the northern edge of Edo, near the rice storehouses, a mouse runs across the path. He watches it go, slow and steady, like him. All things in their rhythm. By dawn, he's back at the small guard station near the river. He takes off his hat, folds his coat. He lights a final lantern and places it on the windowsill, not to see by the sun is rising, but to say, I was here. The city slept, and I watched. His shift is over. A new walker will soon begin, tapping out the morning lull. He eats the sweet bun from earlier, now soft with steam. He smiles. Outside, the first vendor wheels begin to squeak along the roads. A woman sweeps her doorstep. A rooster decides it's finally time. The Yomawari curls onto his mat. No pillows, just a rolled cloak. He tucks his feet under and hums the same lullaby he offered the child. Sleep now, little firefly. The rain is far, the stars are high. And now, he sleeps. As should you. Because even in a city of 10,000 lanterns, someone must dream. And tonight, that someone is you. Close your eyes. Let Edo's streets become your own. Walk them slowly, until your steps fade into stars. There is a town, far from roads and kingdoms, built entirely out of salt. Not metaphorically, not in some poetic way. Literally, salt walls, salt bricks, salt beds. Welcome to the story of Tagaza, a forgotten trading outpost in the middle of the Sahara Desert, where silence ruled in everything, even the air, tasted just a bit like tears. Hey guys, tonight's story takes us back to the 14th century, where beneath the burning sun of West Africa, caravans of camels snaked slowly across dunes, carrying gold cloth, and most importantly, salt. Not the kind you sprinkle on fries, but the chunky, gray, earth-flavored slabs used to preserve meat, cure skin, and quite possibly by entire cities. The town of Tagaza was no tropical paradise. It was a cluster of rectangular huts, low and square, each made from thick, gleaming salt blocks, stacked like sugar cubes. The sun bounced off them in blinding sheets of light. There were no trees, no rivers. Not even sandstorms could get too comfortable here. The salt crunched underfoot, like broken pottery, and the wind carried the dry laughter of traders, mostly Tuareg and Berber, who wore blue veils and never rushed. Inside one of these salt homes, a man stretches awake. His name is Dowd. He's a salt cutter, not a glamorous job, but steady. His tools, a flat wooden wedge, a mallet, and a good sense of rhythm. He hums old songs as he works, splitting slabs into shapes that might become bricks, coins, or bargaining chips in Timbuktu. Dowd's entire life smells like brine. His clothes are stiff with it. His bread has flecks of it baked into the crust. Even the tea he drinks at dusk comes with a pinch of salt, not sugar. To help his body hold water in the unforgiving heat. No one complains. It's just the Tagaza way. Each morning, long before the sun gets too nosy, Dowd walks to the salt pits. They're not dramatic. No cliffs, no glory. Just shallow basins in the earth, shimmering with mineral layers. With practiced ease, he chips, stacks, and lays bricks out to dry. Beside him, others do the same. There's no talk, only the rhythmic clack thud of salt shaping into future trade. Camels arrive in lines soft-footed, long-necked, and unimpressed. They chew thoughtfully while men with flowing robes load bundles of salt onto their sides. Each beast can carry hundreds of pounds. They don't protest. They've done this journey before, across the Sahara to Mali, Niger, even Morocco. Sometimes, a single camel carries enough salt to buy a small house. Life in Tagaza is slow and strangely soothing. The sun rises, and the town gleams. The workers chip, and the walls hum with quiet labor. In the evening, they gather around small fires. Yes, even in the desert nights, the air can cool like wet stone. Someone plays a string instrument fashioned from a gourd and goat skin. The melody drifts like smoke. Children play games where they balance salt bricks on their heads. They race, giggling, through alleyways slick with powdery white dust. Traders swap jokes in multiple languages: Arabic, Songhai, Tamashek, and laugh in soft bursts. The salt has dried out, even their jokes. Sometimes, visitors from the far coast arrive. They wear silk, carry gold, and blink a lot. Their shoes crunch against the ground like clumsy birds. They always ask the same questions. Do you ever get tired of salt? The locals always answer the same way. Do you get tired of air? Tagaza has no gardens, no water to spare. But it has wealth stacked in pale bricks, bound in camel skin, traded across empires. Gold might be shiny, but salt feeds you, keeps your meat from rotting, keeps your skin from cracking. One night, Daoud sits alone atop his salt roof. The stars above the Sahara don't twinkle, they blaze. He drinks his tea slowly, listening to the silence. It's not empty, it's full of wind, of ancient songs, of history settling gently like dust. He remembers a story his grandfather told, that Tagaza was so precious. The Emperor of Mali sent soldiers just to guard it, even though the place had no wells, no shade, not even grass for goats. The salt was enough. The salt was the story. In time, the town would be abandoned. The wells too brackish, the trade routes shifting, the bricks melting back into the desert. But for now, in this soft, quiet night, Tagaza stands. A city of salt, shining under moonlight, wrapped in sleep. So if you ever feel like the world around you is too loud, too fast, too spicy, remember this forgotten town, where even the wind spoke softly, and the walls listened. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts settle like salt in a warm breeze, and sleep sturdy as a camel, soft as a song, on a bed made of forgotten treasures. The desert watches, and dreams. In the misty hills of ancient Anatolia, today's central Turkey, a peculiar civilization once flourished, whispered about in clay tablets and half-buried temples. Tonight, let's travel back over 3,000 years, to the gentle shadows of Hattusa, the capital of the Hittite Empire, a place where lions guarded stone gates. Royal bakers made honey cakes by the cartload, and priests carried feathers to measure the weight of a sigh. Hey guys, tonight's story is a quiet one. No wars, no roaring chariots, just daily life in a city carved from cliffs and surrounded by green meadows and murmuring cypresses. The sun rises over Hattusa. Its light creeps across limestone streets, golden and calm. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Somewhere, a rooster crows in a dialect lost to time. In a modest clay house near the city's edge, a boy named Karenta is waking up. His blanket is woven, wool, coarse but warm, and his pillow is stuffed with hay and lavender. His mother hums softly as she stirs millet porridge in a bronze pot. She drops in a spoonful of goat's milk and a handful of dried figs. Their home smells of hearth ash and rosemary. Karanta stretches, pulls on his linen tunic, and steps into the gentle morning. Outside, the city comes alive, but slowly. Hattusa is not frantic. Its people move with the patience of those who trust the sun will keep rising, the seasons will keep turning. Along the great temple's stone path, scribes walk with styluses tucked behind their ears. They pass soldiers in tall curved helmets, who yawn politely and keep their spears tipped down so as not to startle passing goats, near the lion gate. Yes, actual lion statues, carved from solid rock, mouths open in perpetual yawn. An old man sweeps dust with a bundle of wheat stalks tied with string. His rhythm is almost musical. Swish, swish. Pause. Karunta's father is a royal baker. He works in the temple kitchens, not for priests, but for the gods. Every morning he kneads dough with herbs and honey, forming it into shapes sacred to deities, with names like Tarhuns and Kababa. The oven is deep, blackened from years of careful heat. The loaves emerge with tiny stamped symbols, divine initials if you like. Sometimes, Extra cakes are set aside for local children. Carinta always hopes. Later in the day, Carinta visits his uncle, who serves as a featherweigher, a priestly role. When someone dies, it's said their final breath must be measured, not judged harshly, just noticed. For this, a feather is held out as incense burns. If the feather flutters, it means the soul passed softly. It's a quiet ceremony, often held at dusk, as cicadas begin to sing. At midday, the city naps. Even kings doze behind stone walls, while acacia trees sway gently above. The only sounds are distant sheep bells and the soft plunk of fish jumping in the city's sacred ponds. In the afternoons, scholars sit in shaded courtyards, translating dreams into cuneiform, wedge-shaped letters pressed into clay tablets with reeds. One such dream today features a black ox dancing on a hill. The scholar nods thoughtfully. He's seen stranger. Carinta and his friends play near the ruins of older walls. Hattusa has been rebuilt many times. They chase each other with flower crowns, inventing myths on the spot. "You are Tarhuns, the storm god," one declares. "And I am the snake king who stole your sandals." Laughter echoes off the ancient stones as the sun sets. Long shadows crawl over the Sphinx gate, where the eyes of stone creatures seem to follow the stars. Families gather for supper. Lentils, leeks, flatbread. Someone always brings cheese, wrapped in fig leaves. The city lights, no lamps. Fire is sacred and used sparingly. Darkness here is not feared. It is respected. Carinta lies on the roof of his home. It's flat and warm. He watches the constellations the Hittites gave names. Will never quite recover. Maybe a boar, a plow, a wise heron. He hears a flute in the distance. Someone's playing the song of the rain god, not to summon storms, but to thank the sky for not raining today. The stars above, Hattusa, twinkle differently, as if carved into the dome of the sky, with the same careful hands that etched cuneiform prayers and temple hymns. In time, the Hittites would vanish. Their city would fall quiet. But not tonight. Tonight, the stone lions still watch. The bread still rises. And a small boy with dreams of feathers and gods closes his eyes beneath a sky older than language. So sleep now, knowing the world once moved this slowly. That cities once breathed like forests, and gods smiled through honeycakes. Let your thoughts fall gently, like the last ash from a sacred fire. Let Hattusa keep its watch, and may your sleep be lighter than a feather. In a tucked-away corner of ancient China, hidden between rice paddies and bamboo groves, there lived a curious class of professionals. They weren't generals or philosophers. They didn't command armies or write poetry. They were imperial duck farmers. And tonight, we travel to the Tang Dynasty, a golden age of art, tea, and yes, ducks in little straw sandals. Hey guys! Tonight's story waddles gently into the world of 8th century Chinese duck farming, an odd but essential part of the empire's rural economy. Filled with soft footsteps, echoing quacks and feathery wisdom, passed down from father to son, the morning mist hangs low over the Li River. A man named Bo wakes just before dawn, as he does every day, to the gentle sound of fluttering feathers. He sits up slowly from his mat, stretches his arms, and reaches for the same straw hat his grandfather once wore. It's patched and sun-bleached, but still sturdy. So is he. His house is small and wooden, perched on stilts, just above the marshy earth. The walls are thin, and the smell of damp straw and rice husks lingers in the air. Through the open window, frogs croak, dragonflies hum, and somewhere in the coop, a duck lets out a sleepy complaint. Bao steps outside into the crisp morning. Around him, the world is still waking up. Bamboo leaves sway in the breeze. The mountains are quiet silhouettes against a peach-colored sky. In the pond nearby, water lilies tremble as tiny fish ripple beneath them. He walks slowly, carrying a woven basket filled with rice husks and finely ground barley meal. This is duck breakfast, nothing fancy, but hearty and warm. He doesn't call the ducks. He doesn't need to. As soon as they hear his footsteps, they come a slow parade of soft waddling bodies. Feathers still puffed from sleep, eyes half closed. There are over 300 ducks in Bao's care. Each one has a name, though outsiders often laugh at that. But to Bao, it's no joke. There's old Lotus, who once survived a fox attack. Jade Foot, with a limp but a loud quack. And Plum Blossom, the proud matriarch, who always walks at the front. Bao watches them eat. He squats beside the feeding trough and absent-mindedly hums an old tune. His father taught him the same melody, a song about ducks bringing luck, and how even emperors need clean eggs for breakfast. After feeding, the ducks march in formation, not out of discipline, but custom. Ducks, when treated well, are creatures of habit. Bo claps twice, and they begin their short journey to the river. Each duck wears a tiny straw shoe on each foot, designed to protect them from hot ground and sharp pebbles. They shuffle along the path like miniature monks heading to temple. At the riverbank, the real work begins. The ducks fan out, paddling gently into the reeds, hunting for small snails, weeds, and bugs. This natural foraging makes their eggs richer and their feathers glossy. Bo settles on a smooth rock and pulls out a scroll of bamboo strips. He writes a line or two, a poem, about ducks and harmony. He's not a poet, but in the Tang dynasty, everyone writes verse. Even duck farmers. Around midday, a traveling merchant passes by. He buys 6 duck eggs and leaves behind a pouch of salt and a small paper charm, a token of thanks. Bo nods and bows, offering the freshest eggs wrapped in lotus leaves. Back at home, Bao's wife boils a pot of duck egg, congee thick, rich, and comforting. She sprinkles spring onions on top, and they eat slowly while watching the ducks nap under a willow tree. The breeze is soft. The world feels balanced. In the evening, Bo counts his flock. Every duck accounted for, even Plum Blossom, who always lingers behind. He carries the smallest duckling in his sleeve. It had gotten stuck in the reeds and quacked until rescued. He strokes its downy head and whispers, "You'll be a good swimmer tomorrow." Night falls over the farm. The ducks coo and settle in clusters, safe behind bamboo fences. The moon rises, reflecting softly in the still waters. Bo and his wife sit quietly by the hearth, drinking tea brewed with osmanthus petals. In his sleep, Bao dreams of a floating duck palace, where the ponds never freeze and lotus flowers bloom in every direction. He dreams of Emperor Xuanzong visiting his farm and declaring duck farming the noblest art in China. He dreams of feathers, soft, weightless, peaceful. Long after Bo is gone, duck farming will continue. In different towns, under different emperors, the same quiet rituals will play out. Straw hats, soft claps, tiny duck shoes, and the gentle splashes of 100 small swimmers. So tonight, let your thoughts drift with the current of the Li River. Let your breath mimic the ripples, and let your sleep be as soft and certain as a duck gliding through lotus leaves under moonlight. Quack, pause, quack. The world hums gently on. Long ago, in the rust-colored sands of North Africa, before caravans stretched across the Sahara, and before the camels left prints that vanished with the wind, there stood a curious city of scholars, sandal makers, and date sellers. Tonight, we travel to the gentle heart of medieval Mali, to the sun-baked stone streets of Timbuktu, during its golden age, not of gold exactly, but of books, whispers, and cups of mint tea brewed 3 times over. Hey guys, tonight's story follows. No kings and no conquests, just the ordinary, peaceful rhythm of learning in one of the quietest libraries the world ever forgot to remember. The year is 1324, give or take. A young boy named Idrissa wakes with the sun already peeking through the latticework of his mudbrick home. The walls are cool to the touch, and the floor beneath his sleeping mat smells of clay and last night's incense, amber and sweet. Somewhere outside, a rooster crows lazily, far too late to be helpful. Idrissa rubs his eyes and listens. There is the creak of a wooden cart. A donkey brays, then is politely ignored. And above it all, the call to prayer drifts like smoke, distant and soft, bouncing off rooftops of packed earth. His mother is already grinding millet in the courtyard. The rhythm of the pestle, thump, ... thump, pause is familiar and soothing. She hands him a bowl of millet porridge, with honey and finely chopped dates. He eats slowly, barefoot, watching a line of ants carry away a single breadcrumb, with immense teamwork. After breakfast, he walks to the local madrasa, books bound in goatskin under his arm. They smell faintly of ink and dust, a comforting scent in Timbuktu. The city is full of libraries. Not just one or two, but dozens, nestled behind quiet walls. Some contain maps of stars scribbled in ink that glows when held to the light. Others hold poems about love, treaties about trade, even recipes for removing camel breath from clothing. The street is already busy, but in a sleepy kind of way. Merchants lay out piles of saffron and salt. A girl sells lemons in little woven baskets. A barber sharpens a blade beside a low mirror propped against the wall. Idrissa waves at a friend who's late for Quranic recitation. They grin, and both slow down. No one hurries here. He arrives at the Sankor University, a sprawling campus, shaded by palm trees and filled with quiet courtyards. His teacher today is a man with a long white beard and a soft voice that sounds like he's always about to start humming. They're reading a scroll on astronomy, how the stars in the south bend slightly in summer, how to tell time by shadow length, and why Jupiter might be laughing at break time. Students sip hibiscus tea. Someone plays a flute, low and slow, just barely a melody. A cat wanders between legs and settles beside the books, like it belongs in every classroom. No one questions it. Later, Idrissa visits his uncle, who owns a book copying shop. He spends the afternoon carefully brushing fine ink into parchment. His uncle uses a reed pen. It's tip-shaped just right for elegance. Each word, the uncle says, should feel like it's being placed, not written. Idrissa nods, copying a proverb about rain. Even when it falls soft, it changes everything. Outside, the wind picks up. It isn't a wild wind, more of a warm sigh. Sand lifts off the street and dances in little spirals before resting again. At the market, an old woman tells fortunes with cowrie shells, and a boy balances for clay jugs on his head with no hands. As evening nears, Idrissa walks home with his mother. They pass the camel yards, wide open fields, where the great beasts chew slowly and blink like sleepy librarians. The camels are calm, and the smell of hay and warm dust fills the air. Back at home, the family eats together. Tonight, it's lamb stew with couscous and sweet carrots. They light a small oil lamp, and shadows stretch gently across the walls. Idrissa's grandfather tells a story from his youth, about the time he tried to sell lemons to a sultan, and accidentally traded them for a goat. Everyone laughs quietly, the kind of laughter that doesn't need to be loud. Before bed, Idrissa opens one of his books and copies a few lines of poetry into his journal. The ink glistens. Outside, crickets chirp in slow rhythm. A breeze lifts the edge of his curtain. He closes his book, folds his blanket over his shoulder, and lies down. Timbuktu rests too, its minarets silhouetted against a silver moon, its books tucked away in wooden boxes, its cats curled beneath reading desks. The scholars still whisper their lessons into the walls. The stars still blink over the desert's edge, and a boy still dreams of galaxies written in ink. So tonight, close your eyes beneath Timbuktu's quiet skies. Let the hush of turning pages carry you. And may your dreams be written slowly, one word at a time, in the soft, sleepy script of scholars long gone but never forgotten. Sleep, as gently as ink dries. Sleep, as slowly as a camel's breath. Sleep, knowing that somewhere in the sand, a library still waits for morning. In a chilly corner of 18th century Iceland, where the wind sings through cracks in turf-roofed homes and ravens circle silently above volcanic hills, life moved slowly, and bedtime came early. Tonight, we journey into a land of lava fields and long winters, where sheep outnumber people, and even ghosts take the night off when the snow falls too deep. Hey guys, tonight's story drifts gently into the quiet routines of rural Icelandic villagers during the Age of Enlightenment, a time when Europe buzzed with new ideas, but in this northern world, peace meant knitting by candlelight, telling strange folk tales, and staying warm with dried fish and thick socks. The year is 1783, and we're in the small village of Staverfirmur, nestled in a fjord whose name few outside Iceland ever try to pronounce. A young woman named Kristen Stirs from her sheepskin blanket just before sunrise. Not because it's light outside, it's not, but because the smell of burning cod oil tells her it's time to feed the chickens. Her home is made of stone and earth, its thick turf roof keeping the cold out. Inside, smoke curls from the hearth in lazy spirals, and the air smells like wool, seawater, and a soup made of whatever was available last summer. Kristen pulls on her woolen socks, hand-spun by her grandmother, and steps into the one warm room in the house. The kitchen sitting everything room. The floor is packed earth. The windows are small and fogged, and on the wall hangs a wooden spoon carved with a tiny fish, a gift from her brother who once tried and failed to become a fisherman. Outside, the ground crunches under her boots. The world is mostly gray and white, sky and snow, stone and ice. The mountains stand like sleeping trolls. Kristen scatters barley mash for the chickens, who cluck softly, their breath puffing in little clouds. A raven watches from a fence post, tilting its head, as if remembering something. Back inside, her mother brews a pot of lissy tea, hot water flavored, with a drop of cod liver oil and a pinch of dried moss. It is not delicious, but it is hot. They sit on low stools by the fire, knitting socks and mittens in slow, practiced silence. The only sound is the rhythmic click, click, ... click of knitting needles and the occasional sigh of the kettle. By midday, the sun still hasn't quite shown up, but Kristen walks down to the shoreline anyway. Her father is mending a net, his fingers red from cold but sure in their movements. Nearby, 2 boys are stacking dried fish, the local version of wealth. A full winter's worth of food, salty and stiff, smelling like hard work. She collects seaweed in a basket. It will be boiled later into soup, with turnips and bits of leftover lamb. A fisherman nods as she passes, whistling an old saga tune about an elf who lived in a lighthouse and danced every midsummer night until her shoes caught fire at the communal bathhouse. Steam rises from a hot spring-fed pool. Women soak in silence, exchanging gossip about a missing goat and whether Jay and the Weaver actually saw a sea monster or just had too much Brenovan. Kristen listens, half smiling, letting the warm water lull her. Later, she visits the communal living and sleeping room where people eat, work, and sleep side by side. It's dim, lit by a single candle. On the walls are Rimmer narrative poems written in runes, telling long stories of Vikings, angels, witches, and farmers who talked to foxes. Her grandfather recites one quietly while spinning wool. His voice rises and falls like wind over rocks. Dinner is a thick stew of lamb, potatoes, and fermented shark. Kristen wrinkles her nose but eats slowly, savoring the warmth more than the flavor. Outside, the wind picks up. It rattles the shutters gently, like an old friend trying to say goodnight. Before bed, her little brother asks for a ghost story. Her mother obliges a tale about the Draugr, a spirit who haunts only those who refuse to share their bread. It's not a scary story here. It's just one of the many reminders that generosity is the best kind of protection. The family settles into bed, all in the same room, under layers of blankets, fur, and knitted wool. The candle flickers, then goes out. In the silence, you can hear everything. The creak of the house as it adjusts to the cold. The distant cracking of ice on the fjord. The deep, even breathing of tired people wrapped in warmth and old stories. Kristen dreams of green summer grass and puffins flying just above the waves. Of songs sung on mountaintops and a dog that speaks in perfect Icelandic. Dreams move slowly here, like snow sliding from a roof, or a glacier inching its way through the ages. So tonight, let the winds of the north hum you to sleep. Let your thoughts drift across lava fields and settle beside a hearth. And may you rest as deeply as Iceland sleeps in winter. Quiet, wrapped in wool, and guarded by stories passed from tongue to tongue, like embers that never quite go out. Sleep warm, sleep slow, sleep as the sagas do. Far across the Atlantic, where the sun glints off sugarcane leaves and the scent of nutmeg hangs in the humid air, lies the sleepy island of Grenada, the Spice Isle of the Caribbean. But tonight, we're not here for its tourist beaches or glossy postcards. We're here for something much quieter. We're going to slip gently into the ordinary, aromatic evenings of a Caribbean village in the mid-19th century. where life moved to the rhythm of waves, wooden spoons, and soft stories told on moonlit verandas. Hey guys, tonight's story isn't about pirates or revolutions. It's about how people lived, really lived, in a world of cinnamon trees, wide straw hats, and laughter that rolled smoother than molasses. It's the year 1857, and in the hillside village of Concord, a girl named Amara rises early, not because she has to, but because the morning breeze is soft, and the birds are already singing complicated songs in the breadfruit trees. Her family's wooden home creaks gently as she stretches. The roof is made of tin, and it rattles when mangoes fall on it in the middle of the night. She smiles at the thought of one such mango still lying outside, perfectly ripe. She walks barefoot to the outdoor kitchen, where her grandmother is already stirring a pot of kalalu, a leafy green soup, spiced with coconut milk, chilies, and the kind of patience you learn from decades of cooking without timers. The firewood crackles. A chicken clucks somewhere nearby. The cat yawns. Breakfast is simple: fried plantains, saltfish, and something called cocoa tea. Not chocolate exactly, but made from grated cocoa balls mixed with nutmeg, cinnamon, and condensed milk. Amara sips slowly, the cup warming her hands. As the morning mist lifts from the hills, after breakfast, she joins her cousins to walk down to the nearby river. They pass gardens full of turmeric and dasheen, and stop to wave at Miss Dorothea, who's hanging laundry while humming a hymn. Her hair is wrapped in a bright scarf, and her stories, if you catch her in the mood, include hurricanes, weddings, and the day a goat wandered into the schoolhouse at the river. The children help wash clothes on smooth stones. It's work, but not unpleasant. The sound of rushing water, the laughter of splashes, and the gentle rhythm of soap against fabric blend into something almost musical. On the way back, they gather lemongrass and guava leaves to dry for tea. By midday, the sun is high. The scent of roasting cassava and curry floats through the air. The market is full of slow voices and bold colors. Baskets of cocoa pods, sacks of nutmeg, and bunches of bananas, still dusted with morning dew. Amara walks with her aunt, who barters with a smile, and always gets an extra mango or two, just for being kind. Later, back home, Amara joins the women in the kitchen to prepare oil down, the national dish. It's a one-pot meal made with salted meat, breadfruit, coconut milk, turmeric, and dumplings, all simmered until the flavors become best friends. The pot bubbles, slowly, while stories are told about who got married last week, who's courting who, and the time a parrot escaped and flew into the priest's window during Mass. As the sun begins to dip, long shadows stretch across the porch. Amara and her grandfather sit on a bench carved long ago from driftwood. He tells her about the time he was a boy and tried to climb a nutmeg tree but fell into a basket of yams. He tells it slowly, pausing for effect, drawing out laughter like a fisherman pulling in a net dot around them. The village settles in. A rooster hops onto a fence post. A radio hums a soft calypso tune in the distance. Smoke curls from chimneys as dinner is served. Sweet potatoes, stewed lentils, and a slice of golden plantain pie. After supper, the family gathers outside. The stars come out bold and bright, unbothered by city lights. Someone lights a citronella, coiled to keep the mosquitoes away. The air is thick, but not heavy. It's the kind of air that makes you feel like you're being gently hugged by the island itself. Amara lies on a woven mat, staring up. The palm trees sway. Frogs chirp lazily. In the nearby bushes, her grandmother starts to sing a lullaby in patois, a melody carried down from generations of women who rocked babies through storms and still found time to bake coconut bread before dawn. And so, as the island sighs beneath the stars, as the night carries the scent of clove and the whisper of waves, and as Amara's eyes begin to close with the peace of a day well lived, let your own thoughts drift like spices in a pot. Let your worries soften like cassava in coconut milk. Let sleep come slowly, sweetly, like a breeze through banana trees. Tonight, you are on an island where everything takes its time, where even the stars seem to blink in rhythm with lullabies, where dreams wear straw hats and hum old songs, sleep like the Caribbean sleeps, slow, warm, and full of stories. Sleep where no one hurries. Sleep where the fire is always gentle, and the tea always sweet. Beneath the golden dunes of ancient Sudan, where the Nile gently bends like a ribbon in the sand, there once thrived a kingdom of quiet power and deep rituals. The kingdom of Kush. Tonight, we'll wander gently through that forgotten world, not to recount grand battles or conquests, but to explore the delicate, daily moments of life along the riverbank, where scribes wrote by starlight, incense drifted through mud brick homes, and queens rode donkeys through dusty streets while birds sang overhead. Hey guys, tonight's story takes us back more than 2,000 years, into the rhythm of life in the ancient city of Meru, a place of pyramids smaller than Egypt's, but no less majestic under the moonlight. It's around 200 BCE. The air is warm and dry, and a soft breeze carries the scent of papyrus reeds and roasted millet. A woman named Shanaktakit. No, not the queen. Just another woman with the same name wakes just before sunrise in her small home along the Nile's edge. Her home is made of sun-baked mud brick, cool inside despite the heat rising outside. She lights a small clay lamp and begins her day in near silence. She steps outside, her bare feet brushing the sand. The Nile glistens in the distance. A few fishermen are already out, casting nets with careful precision. Her first task is to grind grain with a stone mill, a circular motion she's repeated every day since she could walk. The sound, gritty, rhythmic, almost hypnotic, fills the courtyard. Her mother hums an old hymn to Amen as she tends to the cooking fire. For breakfast, they eat kisra, a sour thin bread made from fermented sorghum, dipped in lentil stew, spiced with garlic and fenugreek. As the sun rises higher, the women of the house prepare cloth for the market. They've dyed it with crushed pomegranate skin and indigo. The colors faded slightly from last season's sun. The market in Meru isn't loud, it's thoughtful. People speaking in calm, deliberate tones, exchanging not just goods, but blessings. Shanaktakit brings her woven basket of cloth and sits under a fig tree. A neighbor offers her a honey sesame sweet, sticky and fragrant. Across from her, a potter sells small clay jars, etched with tiny symbols of elephants and ibias. Nearby, priests pass silently on their way to the temple. Their robes are white, their expressions unreadable. Incense drifts behind them in swirls of sandalwood and acacia. At the temple gate, scribes sit on low stools, recording offerings and messages from travelers. The script they use is Meroitic, still undeciphered by modern historians, but known by heart to the children learning to write in the dust with sticks. Later, back at home, the midday heat settles over everything like a soft blanket. Shanaktakit lies in the shade, fanning herself gently with palm leaves. The family's donkey snoozes nearby, tail twitching at flies. Her grandmother tells a story about the lion goddess Sekhmet, who once got so angry she drank all the beer in the kingdom, and forgot why she was upset. Everyone laughs quietly, half asleep from the warmth. As evening approaches, she walks to the river. There girls her age gather to collect water in tall jars, balanced perfectly on their heads. They talk of the upcoming festival, of dreams, of which boy stared too long at whom during last week's dance. Their feet splash in the shallows. A heron flies overhead. Dinner is cooked slowly over coals, boiled lentils, dates, and roasted locusts, crunchy and smoky. Her father plays a quiet tune on a lyre, his fingers finding the notes like muscle memory. Shadows dance on the mud brick walls as the sun finally dips behind the dunes. Later that night, the stars come out, thick, endless, bright. The family gathers on the flat rooftop, lying on woven mats, to catch the night breeze. A distant drumbeat from the temple echoes softly. Across the sands, and in the hush of ancient Kush, where pyramids rise like teeth from the earth, and the wind carries lullabies older than ink. You drift, you float like a lotus on the Nile. You breathe in the quiet strength of women who built kingdoms, not with swords, but with bread, cloth, and memory. You sleep as the desert sleeps, still soft and sacred. Let your mind walk barefoot through warm sand. Let your dreams be written in symbols no one else can read. Let the moon guide you, as it once guided caravans in Queens. Tonight, you are in Meru, and Meru is quiet. And so are you. Far to the east, where jade mountains meet soft morning mists, and ancient tea fields ripple like green waves, There once stood a village along the banks of the Yangtze River. It was a place of slow rituals, paper lanterns, and bamboo flutes echoing across quiet water. Tonight, we return not to imperial palaces or battlefields, but to the tender rhythms of daily life. During the Song Dynasty, a time when poetry was sipped with tea, and even silence felt like a song. Hey guys, tonight we journey gently into 11th century China, to a town called Bianjing, the capital of the Northern Song. Yes, but don't worry, we're not concerned with politics tonight. We're here for quiet doorways, steaming bowls of noodles, and the soft hush of calligraphy, brushes gliding over silk. The sun hasn't yet risen, but the streets of Bianjing are already stirring. A scholar named Liu Xiaoyu wakes to the distant toll of a temple bell. His room smells faintly of ink and pine. He rolls up his straw mat, washes his face with cool water from a ceramic basin, and lights a stick of sandalwood incense. The smoke curls upward, slow and steady, just like the thoughts forming in his mind. Breakfast is a warm bowl of kanji, rice porridge flavored with pickled vegetables and a hint of sesame oil. He eats slowly, watching the street below from his window. A vendor pushes a cart of steamed buns past a yawning cat. A mother scolds her son for forgetting his writing brush. Pigeons flutter lazily overhead. Today, Leo will visit the book market, not to buy, but to linger. The market is quiet in the way libraries are. Reverent, hushed, almost sacred. Scrolls line wooden shelves, their silk bindings faded by sunlight. Calligraphers dip their brushes and speak in metaphors. One man is reciting a Tang Dynasty poem about a plum blossom blooming in winter. Liu closes his eyes to hear it better. Down a narrow lane, an old woman sells tea leaves stored in delicate clay jars. She offers Leo a sample, green tea infused with osmanthus blossoms. It tastes like sunshine filtered through lace. He buys a small pouch, not because he needs it, but because her hands reminded him of his mother's gentle, worn, full of care. By midday, the streets are busy, but never rushed. At the noodle stall near the bridge, steam rises from clay pots. Liu orders lamian, hand-pulled noodles served with scallions and soy. The vendor moves with graceful, practiced motions, stretching the dough like a violinist tuning strings. After lunch, Leo walks to the artist's quarter, a cluster of quiet studios behind a bamboo grove. There, a painter is capturing the reflection of clouds in a lake using just 3 strokes. Another artist is carving a miniature lion from jade. Liu watches, not speaking, for nearly an hour. The sound of carving, the scent of ink, the rustle of bamboo, it all blends into a kind of living lullaby. In the late afternoon, he returns home. A neighbor is tending bonsai trees, tiny worlds of twisted branches and moss. Children are flying kites shaped like swallows. One catches in a tree, and a gentle laugh rises from a nearby grandmother. As the sky turns amber, Liu prepares tea. He boils water over charcoal, then pours it slowly into a yixing teapot. He lets the leaves dance. He listens to the quiet crackle of the fire and the occasional sigh of the wind. He pours the tea into a porcelain cup painted with cranes. He takes a sip. It is neither too hot nor too cold, just right. That night, he unrolls a fresh sheet of rice paper and begins to write. Not a great poem, not even a letter. Just thoughts, one line at a time. Brush to paper, stroke by stroke. The characters flow like water from a spring. Outside, the moon glows like a polished pearl. He climbs to the rooftop to sit for a while. Lanterns flicker across the city. A distant flute plays a tune so slow and soft it feels like breath. The river reflects the stars, and for a moment, time itself seems to pause, and so, under the Song Dynasty moon, where tea is poured with ceremony, and words float like mist, you drift. Let your dreams walk under paper lanterns. Let your thoughts glide like a calligraphy brush over silk. Let the rhythm of ancient footsteps guide you to rest. Tonight, you are not in the modern world. You are in Bianjing, where nothing hurries, where every cup of tea is a meditation, where sleep comes quietly, like a falling petal, deep in the heart of the Andes, where clouds brush the peaks and stone steps wind endlessly upward. A city once stood in stillness and secret Machu Picchu, not the bustling Inca capital of Cusco, but a quieter place, sacred, miscovered, nestled among the mountains like a whispered prayer. Tonight, we won't follow explorers or emperors. Instead, we'll trace the gentle paths of those who called Machu Picchu home: cooks, farmers, weavers, and star watchers, as their ordinary days unfolded, in harmony with wind, stone, and sky. Hey guys, tonight's slow story begins high above the Urubamba River. Sometime in the mid-1400s, the air is thin and cool. Llamas graze silently along terraces carved into green slopes. Somewhere in the distance, a flute sings through the morning mist. A young man named Intiaki rises just before dawn. He is not a noble or a priest, just a caretaker of the royal estate, one of many who ensure its sacred stillness remains undisturbed. He sleeps on a mat of straw, tucked against a wall of finely cut stones, so tightly fitted that no blade of grass could slip between them. Outside, fog curls low to the ground. The sun hasn't yet reached the ridge, but the eastern sky is beginning to blush. Intiaki walks to the edge of the terraced fields, where rows of maize and quinoa soak in the overnight dew. He checks the irrigation channels, narrow stone grooves that run like silver threads across the mountain, and clears a bit of moss from one. His companion, a quiet girl named Sumac, joins him shortly after. She carries a clay pot and a small cloth of coca leaves, gently wrapped in alpaca wool. Together they sit near a shrine, a carved stone facing the rising sun. They place the leaves there and whisper a soft thank you to the apis, mountain spirits believed to protect them. The city is beginning to stir. Wood smoke rises in thin ribbons from small kitchen huts. A cook is grinding maize with a stone pestle, humming a tune about the puma and the moon. Breakfast is warm and simple. Watia potatoes baked in an earth oven, and a sweet cup of chicha, a fermented corn drink that tastes like the color gold would if it melted on your tongue. Later that morning, Intiaki helps the stonemason repair a stairway worn smooth by rain and pilgrims. The stones are heavy, but shaped with care, not with iron tools, but with patience and precision. There's no rush. Nothing is rushed here. Even the llamas step softly. Some AQ spends her hours spinning yarn from alpaca fleece, twisting the thread between her fingers, while sitting in the sun. Her mother weaves beside her, creating a tunic patterned with tiny symbols: condors, maize, rivers, and stars. Each thread tells a story. Each story, a thread in a world where time flows. Like water by midday, the sun has climbed high enough to warm the courtyard stones. Shadows shorten. Children run barefoot between walls, chasing a carved wooden top. An elder tells a story about the first Inca rising from Lake Titicaca, his eyes like lightning, his words the wind. The children listen, then forget, then remember. Again, when they dream, in the afternoon, the priests climb to the Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun, a sacred stone, aligned with the soul. They do not speak. They observe the light, the shadow, the whisper of the wind across stone. Time is red in how light bends. At sunset, the sky paints the valley in pink and purple hues. Intiaki walks to the edge of the cliff. Below, the river glints like a moving mirror. Birds return to nests. A condor glides silently across the sky, and for a moment, everything feels like a held breath. Dinner is shared quietly. More potatoes, seasoned with wild herbs. Dried meat softened in broth, corn cakes, and soft laughter. The stars begin to appear one by one, reflected dimly in clay pots of water placed on the ledge. That night, in the cold stillness of the mountains, Intiaki lies on his straw mat again. The stone walls hold the day's warmth. Outside, the air is crisp and thin. A pan flute plays somewhere far off. A dog barks once, then is silent and, in the hush of Machu Picchu, where clouds sleep on the earth, and mountains hum lullabies, you drift. Let your breath match the rhythm of ancient terraces. Let your mind walk slow, stone paths through sacred air. Let your thoughts dissolve like mist above the river. Tonight, you are wrapped in a woven tunic of stars. Tonight, you sleep under skies the Incas once watched, and everything is quiet, and you are too, in the wind-blown wilds of northern Scotland, where the moors stretch endless and grey, and the sea crashes in cold rhythm against jagged cliffs. There once stood a lonely monastery on the island of Iona. Not large, not grand, just a cluster of stone buildings where monks moved with gentle purpose, copied sacred texts by candlelight, and whispered their prayers to the waves. Tonight, we drift into the early Middle Ages, around the year 825, to spend a day among these quiet brothers, where the silence itself feels holy. The sun has not yet risen. Mist hangs low over the island, like a woolen cloak. Inside his cold stone cell, Brother Aidan opens his eyes to the soft toll of the morning bell. He rises slowly, wraps himself in a rough wool robe, and steps barefoot onto the cold flagstones. His joints ache, but the ache is familiar, even comforting, like the island's wind, or the salt in the air. He walks to the chapel, where a single candle flickers in the dark. The others are already there. 9 brothers in total. They stand together in silence. No one speaks. Not yet. The first prayer of the day begins as a chant, low, unhurried, like the sound of waves on stone. Domini exaudi, orationem, meam, ... double quotes, Lord, hear my prayer, ... Outside the sky begins to pale. Aidan and Brother Muir prepare for the day's work. They gather reeds to mend the roof of the scriptorium. Aidan's hands are chapped, cracked from years of wind and parchment. But he doesn't mind. Each task here is part of a rhythm older than memory. The morning meal is small oatcakes and a cup of thin ale. Sometimes, if the weather's kind, they have cheese. They eat in silence, listening only to the soft scrape of wood on wood, or the distant cry of ci rias. After breakfast, Aidan returns to the scriptorium, a small stone room lit by narrow windows, and the occasional candle stub. His task, to copy a page of the Book of Psalms. He sharpens his quill with a bone knife, dips it into ink made from oak galls and iron salts, and carefully draws the first letter, a sweeping, embellished B, for Beatus Vir. ... Blessed is the man, ... Each word must be perfect. Each line must rest within invisible margins, guided by the faint grooves carved into the vellum. He breathes slowly. The only sound is the scratch of quill on parchment, the occasional sigh, the whisper of the wind under the door. Brother Muir enters quietly to bring more ink. He doesn't speak, just nods. They understand each other without words. The work is its own form of communion. At midday, the brothers gather for sext. The 6th hour, another short service. The bell rings again, thin and distant, as if carried on wind from centuries away. They recite the prayers from memory, eyes closed. Voices rising together like smoke from a peat fire. Lunch is barley broth, and a bit of fish caught the day before. The monk who tends the nets says little, but everyone knows his fish stew is the best. They eat slowly, warmed by the fire and by the quiet company of men who have chosen to leave the noise of the world behind. The afternoon is for tending the gardens. Brother Aidan pulls weeds from the vegetable patch behind the chapel. Turnips, leeks, a few hardy herbs that survive the salt air. He pauses to watch a bee land on a purple thistle. He smiles. Small things still bring joy. Later, he walks to the edge of the island to gather driftwood. The sea is restless, waves crashing in a steady, measured beat. Gulls wheel overhead. Across the channel, the mainland looms dark and distant. But here, on Iona, there is only wind and sky and stone. As evening falls, the brothers return to the chapel. Vespers, the day's final prayers. The candlelight flickers over worn faces and rough robes. Their voices are low, tired, but peaceful. The chant rises one last time. Gloria Patri, et Filio, et Spiritui, Sancto. After supper, more oatcakes, more stew. They sit by the fire. One monk reads aloud from the writings of Saint Columba, the founder of their little monastery. His voice is gentle, the words well-worn. Outside, the wind sings through the eaves. Brother Aidan returns to his cell. He kneels, offers a final prayer, then climbs into his straw bed. The wind whistles gently through the stones. His eyes grow heavy. He sleeps with a small smile, one hand resting on the leather-bound psalter beneath his pillow. And in the sacred hush of Iona, where prayers drift like sea mist, and time wears a monk's robe, you drift. Let your breath follow the rhythm of waves on ancient rock. Let your thoughts soften like candlelight on vellum. Let the quiet devotion of centuries settle around you. Tonight, you are not in the rush of the world. Tonight, you sleep beneath stars that watched the monks of Iona, and the sea sings you softly to sleep.